Alright, results time for UFC Qatar. In this video we will find out which UFC prediction channels had the most and least correct picks, and which ones could have lost you or won you the most money had you blindly followed every pick they made. We do this for the straight up winner picks, but also for the method of victory predictions. And for the last part we will go over which channels have the longest losing and winning streak. But first we go over the results per fight and see how the channels did in general. Most of the channels had correctly picked Denzel Freeman to win his fight, but his decision win was picked correctly by 12% of all the channels, but by the best method of victory predictors 37.5%. The biggest underdog on this card that won his fight was Nicholas Delby, and only 5% of all the channels picked him to win. And him winning via decision was also only picked by around 5% of all the channels. 90% of all the channels picked Aliyev to win, but the best predictors had it much lower with 70% and the best favorite predictors for 79%. And his method of victory, a decision win, was picked correctly by 89% of all the channels and by 56% of all the best method of victory predictors. Just over half of the channels picked Nardiev to win, and the best predictors 38% and the best favorite predictors 57%. And around 1/3 of all the channels had him winning via KO TKO and also the best MOV predictors. Topuria was picked by 50% of the channels to win, and by the best predictors 46% and the best favorite predictors also 50%. And 47% had him winning via decision, and by the best MOV predictors 33%. Kyoji was picked by 39% of all the channels, and by the best predictors 46%, and also the best underdog predictors 46%. But not a single channel had him winning via submission. And Abdul was picked by 100% of all the channels, but only 9% of all the channels had his method of victory prediction correct, a submission win, although he was very close to a KO TKO. Luke Riley was picked by 80% of the channels and by 70% of the best predictors and 79% of the best favorite predictors. And his KO TKO victory was picked by 58% of all the channels and by 75% of the best MOV predictors. 79% of all the channels had Esu Almabayev winning, and 85% by the best predictors and 86% by the best favorite predictors. And him winning via submission was picked by 30% of all the channels and by 22% of the best MOV predictors. Waldo Cortes Acosta was picked by 87% of all the channels and 75% of the best predictors and the best favorite predictors. And via KO TKO was picked by 47% and 33% of the best MOV predictors. 84% picked Oralby to win, but he was picked 100% by the best predictors and the best favorite predictors. And by a KO was picked by 35% and 22% of the best MOV predictors. And almost every channel picked Volkan Oezdemir to win, with 91% and 92% and 93% for the best and the best favorite predictors. And 75% had him winning by a KO TKO and 2/3 of the best MOV predictors. 83.5% had Ian Gary winning, but the best predictors had him winning by 92% and the best favorite predictors 100%. And 70% of all the channels had him winning via decision and 2/3 of the best MOV predictors. And for the last fight of the night, the winner, Arman Tsarukyan, was picked by 96.5% of all the channels, by the best predictors 92% and 100% by the best favorite predictors. And his submission win was picked by 36% of all the channels, but by the best method of victory predictors 62.5%. Now let's go over the results per channel. And for all these results we only look at channels that made picks on at least half of all the fights. But after each part I also have an overview which includes all the channels, so also the channels that made picks on less than half of all the fights. Which channels were the least accurate with predicting the winner for each fight. From number 9 to number 4 we have the following 15 channels, with a correct pick percentage of 58% down to 46%. In third place we have Guaranteed from Bros Talk MMA and Fight Fiend Forecast, with a correct pick percentage of 43%. And with a correct pick percentage of 38.5%, we have in second place Sean from the Running Mouth MMA Show and the Finch Chats. Both of them had 5 out of the 13 picks correct. And the channel with the lowest correct pick percentage this week was Sansu Tips. He made 7 winner picks, but only 2 of them were correct, for a correct pick percentage of 28.6%. Now which channels were the most accurate with predicting the winner for each fight on this card? And on this card a lot of channels did really well, because sharing third place we have a total of 14 channels in alphabetical order. And all of these 14 channels had 12 out of their 14 winner picks correct, for a correct pick percentage of 85.7%. And in second place we have Harbar MMA, Jake Gerber MMA and Tony S. Died. All 3 of them had 12 out of 13 correct for 92.3%. But in first place, the channels with the highest correct pick percentage, we have the following 4 channels: Axel MMA, Benny P MMA, King of Crackdown and MMA Matt. And all 4 of them had 13 out of 14 picks correct, for a 93% correct pick percentage. And here's the complete overview of all 123 channels that I've tracked. with their correct picks, total picks and correct pick percentage. What if you'd blindly followed every pick a channel had made and placed a $100 moneyline bet on each of them? Well, this would have been the results, and to calculate these results we use the odds from the tail of the tape, which are shown just before each fight starts. The least profitable channels had you blindly followed all of their picks from number 10 to number 4. We have the following 7 channels, with a return on investment of minus 28% down to minus 45%. In third place we have the Finch Jets. He had a return on investment of minus 49.9% over his 13 predictions. With a minus 51.4% ROI we have Sean from the Running Mouth MMA show. And in first place for least profitable channel for this event we have Sansu Tips. Had you blindly followed all of his winner picks and placed a $100 moneyline bet on each of them, you could have lost $367 for a minus 52.5% return on investment. Which channels could have won you the most money if you had blindly followed every pick they had made? From number 10 to number 4 we have the following 15 channels, with a return on investment of 32% up to 45.4%. Haparo MMA is in third place, with a return on investment of 47.5% over his 13 predictions. And with a 13% higher return on investment in second place we have Benny P MMA. Had you followed all of his picks, you could have had a return on investment of almost 61% over his 14 winner picks. And in first place, with a slightly higher return on investment, the channel who was the most profitable this week, we have MMA Matt. If you had followed all of his picks and placed a $100 moneyline bet on each of them, you could have won $861 for a very good return on investment of 61.5%. So congratulations to MMA Matt for being the most profitable predictor this week. And also to Benny P MMA, who was very close to being first. And here is the overview of all 123 channels that have tracked this week, with their total money won or lost, their return on investment, correct picks, total picks, correct pick percentage and money invested. And now let's have a look which channels were the most accurate with their method of victory predictions. So for this part they need to have the winner and their method of victory prediction correct. In fourth place for the least accurate method of victory predictions, we have the following 5 channels with 4 out of 14 correct for 28.6%, with a correct pick percentage of 23%. In third place we have MMA El Dente, Rigo and Young Pasty. In second place with 3 out of 14 correct we have Frenzy and MMA Joey, for a correct pick percentage of 21.4%. And the channels that were the least accurate with their method of victory predictions this week, we have Mark Berry TMA and the Finch Jets. And both of them only had 2 out of the 13 method of victory predictions correct, for a 15.4% correct pick percentage. Which channels were the most accurate with their winner and method of victory predictions? From number 8 to number 4 we have these 13 channels, and they had a correct pick percentage of 44.4% up to 53.8%. In third place is UFC Thoughts. He had 6 out of 11 method of victory predictions correct, for 54.5%. And with a correct pick percentage of 57.1% we have Mystic KO in second place. He had 8 out of 14 of his method of victory predictions correct. And in first place, the channel that was the most accurate with their method of victory predictions, we have MMA Experts. He made 9 method of victory predictions and 6 of them were correct, for a 66.7% correct pick percentage. And here is the complete overview of all 86 channels from which I've tracked a minimum of 1 method of victory predictions, with the correct picks, total picks and correct pick percentage. What would have happened if you had blindly followed every method of victory prediction a channel had made and placed a $100 bet on each of them? And to calculate these results I used the average odds from oddscham.com, which I've taken 6 hours before the start of the fights. Let's first go over which channels could have lost you the most money with their method of victory predictions had you blindly followed each one of them. For least profitable channel we have these 7 channels from number 10 to number 4, with a return on investment of minus 30.5% down to 47.7%. In third place we have the Finch Jets. He had a return on investment of minus 51.2% over his 13 method of victory predictions. In second place is MMA El Dente, although he had 1 method of victory prediction more correct than the Finch Jets with 3 out of 13, he had a lower return on investment of minus 54%. And in first place, the least profitable channel for this event with their method of victory predictions, we have Mark Berry TMA. he had 2 out of 13 of his method of victory predictions correct, and had you followed all 13 of them, you could have lost $933 for a minus 71.7% return on investment. Now, which channels were the most profitable with their method of victory predictions this week? From number 10 to number 4, we have these 8 channels with a return on investment of 41.7% up to 65%. In third place, with a return on investment of 67.2%, we have Shisti MMA, and he had 7 out of 14 method of victory predictions correct. With a return on investment of 69%, in second place, we have BetSam. But the most profitable channel this week with their method of victory predictions, in first place, we have MMA Experts. Had you followed all 9 of his method of victory predictions and placed a $100 bet on each of them, you could have won $831 for a very good return on investment of 92.4%. So, congratulations to MMA Experts for being the most profitable method of victory predictor this week. And here is the complete overview of all 86 channels from which I've tracked method of victory predictions. With their total money won or lost, their return on investment, their correct method of victory predictions, their total predictions and their correct prediction percentage, and their investment. And for the last part, we will look at which channels are on the longest losing or winning streak. And for this part, we will only look at the results for their winner picks. On a 2-week losing streak, in alphabetical order, we have these 19 channels. And out of those 19 channels, around half of them, 10 channels, are on a 3-week losing streak. And out of those 10 channels, only 3 of them have a 4-week losing streak, which are Guaranteed from Bros Talk MMA, Clanbot and Sansu Tips. And out of those 3 channels, Clanbot and Sansu Tips have a 5-week losing streak. But only one of them is on a 6-week losing streak, which is Clanbot. And unfortunately for him, it doesn't stop there, because he's also on a 7, 8, 9 and 10-week losing streak. So I hope for him that he turns it around next event. Which channels are on the longest winning streak with all of their winner picks? On a 3-week winning streak, we have the following 19 channels in alphabetical order. And out of those 19 channels, a total of 14 channels are on a 4-week winning streak. But out of those 14 channels, only 3 of them, Live at Larry MMA, MMA Experts and Keith Schillen from Sherdog.com have a 5-week winning streak. But out of those 3 channels, none of them have a 6-week winning streak. That was it for the results video for UFC Qatar. For next week there's no event, so no videos from me, but we'll be back for UFC 323. Thank you so much for watching, enjoy the week off, and I'll see you in the next video.